Hey everyone, I'm Fox with Foxio Games, and Bloodborne's first DLC is out. If you're watching this around the same time that I upload it, then Bloodborne, the Old Hunters DLC has been out for just under a week. I've had a chance to play it through to the end, and I even live streamed the entire thing. To those of you who were there to see me live on Twitch, this review will not be a surprise. To the rest of you, well, go ahead and place your bets now. Leave a comment below stating whether you think I generally liked the DLC or generally disliked the DLC. Go ahead. No, I'm serious. I really want you to do it. Go ahead and leave a comment below. So the Old Hunters is the first and possibly the only expansion DLC for Bloodborne, the exclusive From Software title for the PS4 that follows in the same vein as the Soul series. There hasn't been any official statement on whether or not future DLC expansions are in the works for the game, but my guess is that this will probably be the only one. Again, that's just my gut feeling. Anyway, did you get a chance to leave your comment below? I hope so, because here we go. I went into the Old Hunters mostly blind, having seen or heard very little about it. Going at the game live on stream allowed me to share my immediate thoughts and feelings about the game completely uncensored. I intend to be a little more calculated about what I say here. I didn't time my playthrough the DLC, but I felt that I got exactly the amount of time out of it that I'd expected. It definitely did not feel too short. You're also supplied with a surprising number of additional weapons and armor sets, including a weapon that doubles as a bow. Unfortunately, this bow weapon uses up your very limited bullet resource, which I found disappointing. I would have suggested a unique replenishing arrow meter, but maybe that wouldn't fit the game's overall feel. The other weapons seemed pretty solid, although I started to feel like a bit too many of the weapons had essentially the same moveset as the Saw Cleaver, at least in one of their forms. I'm trying to review this here without spoiling too much, so let me just say that I thought it had plenty of bosses. You probably already guessed that there's at least one optional boss that you could easily miss if you're not careful. There are some unique and varied environments here in the DLC, with quite a few brand new enemy types as well, although one boss model is essentially reused from the main game. The graphics, sound effects, and music are all up to par with the base game. And with that, I'm going to dive right into what I found disappointing. First, the sound engineering. I don't hear too many people comment on this, but there are just too many sound effects in this DLC that are just way too loud. Some of the boss screams and sounds just don't feel balanced with the rest of the game, and I literally found myself continuously turning down the game's volume to make it more tolerable. The DLC mostly performs similarly to the rest of the game. It never exceeds 30 FPS, obviously, with occasional drops and the ever-present issues with the frame timing. Sadly, the DLC does nothing to enhance or improve upon the flawed multiplayer system, although the free patch update did add an additional multiplayer oath known as the League. And now for the biggest issue I have with the DLC. Well, I think they just tried way too hard to make it difficult. There's something to be said about providing players with a nice challenge, but this is just ridiculous. Remember those absurd ambush encounters in Dark Souls 2? Remember those cheap tactics from Dark Souls 2, like enemies that track you perfectly even as they launch into their attacks? Well, there's a lot of that kind of design in here. Many areas contain an excessive number of mobs, and it's just way too easy to get overwhelmed even at high levels. Heck, I was level 106 when I started the DLC, and I had a maxed out weapon. The game also features numerous ranged attackers, often placed in difficult to reach places, which pretty much ensures that you're dashing and rolling around wildly to dodge these snipers while also trying to kill numerous melee enemies that relentlessly chase you down. In one particular area, there are several dog enemies that can use a special roar to stagger you, with several other melee enemies who can also throw spears at you, combined with an enemy that instantly targets you with lightning. When you approach this lightning caster to kill it, you'll most likely be sucker punched by a giant beast who leaps out at you from around the corner. Altogether, it feels remarkably similar to many of the cheap tactics and design elements employed in Dark Souls 2 to make sure that, above all, the player dies. I have a running gag in my live stream when it comes to this sort of thing. I ask, why do they design the game in this manner? And my response is always, because difficulty. While not grammatically accurate, because difficulty describes much of this DLC, from ambush encounters to hard-to-reach ranged snipers to hordes of grouped-up enemies and ultimately to the drive-you-insane, frustratingly punishing boss fights. Bloodborne the Old Hunters feels designed from start to finish to kill you as much as possible, with other elements like fun, balance, and fairness all sacrificed in the process. If you enjoy dying a whole lot and don't mind putting up with a good deal of imbalanced design issues, you'll probably find the DLC to be to your liking. However, if you're like me and had some mixed feelings about some aspects of the base game, then you'll probably find Bloodborne the Old Hunters to be an emphasis on the wrong kind of design. In conclusion, I had hoped for an expansion that would really draw me back into the world of Bloodborne. It was a world that I essentially considered to be really interesting, and for the first time in the entire Souls series, if you count Bloodborne as a Souls game like I do, I was really interested in the lore. But the Old Hunters simply is not that expansion. I can't help but feel Tanimura's influence on this DLC, and that's not a good thing. Painfully aggravating difficulty, sound balance issues, and the lack of any additional support for the nearly extinct PvP scene all come together to make the Old Hunters a disappointing release for me. I simply cannot recommend the Old Hunters to any but the most faithful fans of the game. While all of the hardcore Bloodborne fans have undoubtedly already purchased and played it, for those of you who are still on the fence with this one, my advice to you is to give this one a pass. Bloodborne: The Old Hunters left a bad taste in my mouth, and I can't help but feel that much less endeared to the game because of it. While I may take the opportunity to experiment with the new weapons a little bit, I don't see myself returning to the DLC content anytime soon. I just didn't enjoy it. So, did you guess right at the beginning of this video? I'd love to know what you thought of the DLC, so please leave your comments below, give the video a like or a dislike, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time.